Okay, hello all. My name is Tom Shannon. I am your course director for this course, which is RMD 562A. It's A because they had to split it into two parts across the semester. So A is before Christmas, or before the Christmas break, and B is after the Christmas break, but it's all one course. The first thing I'd like to do is encourage you guys to contact us if you have a problem. And in particular, I would like to encourage you to contact me if you have a problem. You guys probably have already noticed this, but if not, we have a tendency to solicit a lot of feedback from our students, much more than you probably were used to having to give or being asked to give as undergraduates. Part of that is because this is a new curriculum and we want to know how we're doing, and we want to know what we need to change and what we don't need, and what we're doing well, hopefully. But what we need to change for sure. The other aspect of this is, really truthfully, we have always solicited student feedback really quite heavily here, and we take some pride in the fact that we do listen to you. And if you make a suggestion and it doesn't get implemented, there's usually good reason why, and I can almost always tell you what that is, assuming that I had anything to do with the decision. So giving feedback is something that we really encourage, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. The best way to contact me is via email. That is particularly true if you actually want me to do something about what you're asking me about. In other words, you know, you'll tell me something and it'll look like it's registering, and my eyes will look intelligent, and I'll be looking at you and I'll be nodding my head, and you'll think I'm getting it, and I do. But the problem is, the very next student to come up and talk to me is going to knock whatever you said right out of my head, and I'll never remember it. So the best way to contact me, if you have an actionable item, something that you really want me to do something about, is via email. And once it arrives in my email inbox, it will not get lost, and the odds are very good that I will do something about it if I can. If I do not respond to your email within 24 hours, it means I did not get it. I do this religiously by habit. It's almost always the first thing I do in the morning, is go through my emails, and I will at least tell you that I got it. And if I don't tell you that I got it and 24 hours goes by and you haven't heard from me, it means I didn't get it. And I know that sounds like, you know, that sounds like garbage that people just spout because they just didn't want to answer you. I actually do not get emails, and Dr. Zabo, your next course director, does not get them either. We don't know why. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. And so don't hesitate to email me again. You are not bugging me. First of all, the odds are I didn't get it. Second of all, if I didn't answer you within 24 hours and I did get it, then I really want to hear from you again, because it means I made a mistake. It does not happen often. It does happen. If you talk to me personally and you want me to do something about it, and you don't want to email me, or you're afraid you'll forget to email me, stand in front of me and don't leave until I write it down. Don't leave until you see me write it down. If I write it down, you'll be okay. If I don't, then you're taking whatever it is, the fate of whatever it is you wanted to talk to me about, into your own hands, because I believe the odds are fairly good I'll forget. I mean, I'm sorry to say it, that's the way it is. I've had enough time during my life to know what my weaknesses and strengths are, and that is a big weakness. So don't leave until I write it down. I'll never remember otherwise. All right. Another good way to contact me, I know all you guys have iPads. I have an iPhone. I have an iPad. I'm making this on a MacBook Pro. So if you want to send me a message through the iMessage system, that works pretty well, because I have alarms on my watch that go off. My phone goes off. If I'm on the computer, there's a message that appears. So particularly if you want an answer right away, that's a good way to get a hold of me. Okay. If you want to talk to me in person, which is often a good way, particularly if you want to talk physiology, which tends to get complicated really quickly, to talk to me, my office hours are Tuesdays, 11 to noon, 1 to 2, so I know that all of you will have at least an opportunity to come in. You either have a morning session or an afternoon session on Tuesday. Whichever you don't have, that would be the time for you to come in. And of course, you can make an appointment and see me anytime, and I'm happy to do that. Email me, suggest a few times. I will give you, suggest them in order of preference, and I'll give you the best available that I've got. Okay. I also will be here on Saturday mornings in room 969 from 10 a.m. to noon. I should have put that on the slide. I didn't. Here, I'll put it on now, just so you guys will see it. 10 to noon in 969. All right. So I would encourage you to come in and talk to me during those times if you don't mind coming in on a Saturday. If you don't want to come in on a Saturday, you do not have to. All right. You can make an appointment with me. I'm perfectly happy to see you. I don't want you to feel obligated. It's just convenient to have these Saturday sessions. I can flash up a slide or two, which kind of helps with the explanations. If a lot of you show up, which sometimes happens right before exams, I can take questions from the seats. Okay. So don't hesitate to come in, but if you don't want to, don't worry about it. I also will be paying attention to the discussion board, which is on Entrada. It is not on Entrada as I talk to you now, but I am told it will be by the time you see this video, well before that. It is under the cases folder. I will, as a matter of fact, I have it here. Here it is, right under the cases folder. Actually, they've already put it up. That's service, okay? So I will monitor that for questions. I would encourage you as students to answer other students' questions. I believe that's an outstanding way to learn. But I will be monitoring it as well. And if I get questions via email and it looks like something that I think is important, or particularly if it's something that I'm getting a lot of emails about, I will post a question myself and answer it on the discussion board so that the class can see it. So it's worth your time to keep an eye on that discussion board. And we'll see if we can make a little bit more use of that than was made in the host defense block. See how that works out. As far as feedback goes, getting feedback from you, there's one official student-faculty lunch per month where the school provides the lunch. And you guys are all on the list for that, and I will be sending out invitations to you about a week beforehand. The first of those is on November 16th. There'll be one in December. There'll be one in January. Okay? In addition to that, I would like to meet with you more frequently. We have traditionally done this once per week. And because of the way things fell out this year, and because I'm trying to get money from a different monetary source for these lunches, they were not able to budget enough money to give us enough to where we could meet with you weekly. Okay. However, I would like to do so, and I would like to meet with students who want to meet with me. And if you want to bring a lunch and meet with us over the noon hour, that would be really well appreciated. I am taking volunteers for that. I sent out an email to the class during host defense. I got about 20 responses or so, which is a good start. And we typically invite about a dozen students per session. And if this went once per week with 150 students, we would typically go around one time by probably February. And then we'd start again and go down the list as far as we could through the rest of the year. with only 20 volunteers, obviously I'm not going to be doing this once a week, but what I'll probably do is I'll schedule lunches during this block for any students who volunteer. So please email me and volunteer, and maybe it won't be weekly. It probably won't be weekly unless we can get the number of volunteers up to like 60. But nevertheless, if you've emailed me already, you're on the list, and we'll be having a lunch in addition to the official lunches, and you'll get your opportunity to talk to us, and we'll do it again soon after that if we can't get it going weekly. Okay, we'll invite you again. So please volunteer to do this. We want your feedback. We really want to hear from you. We want to make this better. Good things come out of these feedback sessions. I was unable to convince the money men that it was worth the time and the money, but believe me, it is, because we get, getting feedback every week is really valuable to us. Sometimes little things will pop up that we'd have never thought of, or sometimes, Dr. Algul will ask about the slides that she put up, and the students will have this blank look on their face like, what slides? They had no idea that slides went up, and we'd have never found out if we hadn't, met with you guys. So it's really a fairly important thing to me to meet frequently with the students. Doing it over the lunch hour on Thursdays is a good time to do it. So I would encourage you to volunteer if you've not already done so. All right, enough of that. About the course itself, the title is Vital Fluids and Gases, and as of about a month ago, that meant the cardiovascular system, the respiratory system, and the renal system. And it made sense, believe it or not, to have renal in this block because the block is about regulating, it's largely about regulating blood pressure, and you do that long term through the auspices of your kidneys. And so we really liked that. I was particularly enthusiastic about it. Then we started getting feedback from you during the host defense block, and we realized that you were feeling somewhat overloaded. And I, in particular, got very, very worried about this because if you think host defense was overloaded, you ain't seen nothing yet. To give you an idea of how compressed this block is, it was 12 weeks in the old curriculum, all of this content combined. It is now 9. Okay? But as of a month ago, that was 15 weeks worth of content in the old curriculum compressed down to 9. So that was a 40% compression, something that you did not have in host defense. All right? So this block with renal was really, really compressed. All right? A lot of material per case. Fortunately, I work with reasonable people, and they agreed with me that renal needed to be removed because otherwise you were going to be overloaded. So now, instead of being really, really compressed, it's just really compressed. We're compressing it from 12 weeks to 9, not 15 to 9. Okay? So we went from you guys calling your friends and relatives and complaining bitterly about how much we're overloading you and how much you have to learn to, well, probably the same thing but with a little bit less intensity. All right? So the fact that we've removed renal is probably going to really help you a lot. Don't get the wrong impression. It is still really compressed and you are going to be really busy, okay? And that is true particularly for the first case because we're trying to get foundational content to you guys fairly early, and so the first couple cases are really, really crowded, all right? And the minute you finish watching this video and you look at the content for the first case, assuming that it's up, and heaven help us, I hope it is, then you will realize what I'm talking about. And I will talk about it a lot in the video associated with the study guide for that case. Okay, but nevertheless, be prepared. Don't take too much time off after the host defense final. Honestly, take Saturday off, relax, go do some shopping, do whatever you're going to do. Maybe recover, maybe if you can. Get over those dead brain cells that you killed the night before. But come probably about Sunday, you better get going on this block, and I mean that because there's more material than there was in the last block. I'm sorry to say it. I'm not proud of it. It's just a fact, and I feel like I just have to warn you. Also, because we removed renal, it created some blank time in the schedule because we did not replace those case sessions. So you will have this time to study. My strong suggestion is that you use this time wisely. You're getting it in this block. You will probably never get it again in another block. You will notice that those blank areas tend to happen in heavily loaded areas of the curriculum where there is a lot of content to learn, okay? A lot of physiology content to learn. I'm the physiology discipline director. Don't use that time as vacation time. You will regret it, and you will regret it a lot, okay? I'm just warning you now. Be sure to use those times to study. Okay, so now we're down to 9 cases in this block and 11 CBCL sessions. There are 3 readiness assessments for the clinical skills portion of the curriculum. Okay, the Tuesday, Friday sessions. So that's 14 readiness assessments altogether. You get to drop the 2 lowest. Okay. There are also 2 formative exams scattered throughout the block. Because this is such a long block and because there's so much material, those formative quizzes or formative exams are basically midterms, and you should treat them as such. These will be debriefed. I believe Maureen, Dr. Richards, was able to debrief you on host defense after one of your formatives. I'm not sure about that. But because we created blank time in the schedules with the removal of renal, we created time to actually debrief these, to meet with you as a class, to go over these formative exams and hit upon the questions that were missed most frequently. And I would strongly suggest you show up for those. The final exam is comprehensive, and I'll talk about that in a minute. There will be occasional, I believe I scheduled 3 faculty question and answer sessions. These are not review sessions. They encourage us not to have review sessions. They're too much like lectures, and this is supposed to be a lectureless curriculum. However, people like me will be available to stand in front of you, the class, or part of the class, and answer your questions as they come up. So if you bring questions, we'll be there. We can answer them for you. And we will do that occasionally. And of course, every Saturday session with me is basically a question and answer session over my own material. There is no new material in those Saturday sessions. They are strictly review. They are strictly question and answer, excuse me. They're basically office hours on Saturday. You also have physical exam mastery labs, clinical skill assessments, just like host defense. I'm not going to waste your time by going through this in great detail. You also have histopathology labs, just like you had in the host defense block, host defense, host response block. Note that there are gross anatomy labs in this block, and as a matter of fact, we're hitting you with one immediately. It is the first thing you will have in this block on Wednesday. I believe it's November 8th. Okay, the materials to study for those labs, here are the notes. Those notes are actually in your self-study guide. Okay, and you will be able to go through those before the lab. And then those labs are also covered on the readiness assessments, okay? And there are other materials associated with the anatomy labs, just like the histology labs. And again, that's why they have their own section on Entrada, all right? Let's see. Here is the grading rubric for this course. It's exactly like host defense. I'm not going to go through it with you the same way that Dr. Richards did. It's a waste of your time. You have the readiness assessments here. You have the formative quizzes. Note that in addition to the written summative, you have a practical in this course. That will be on the same day as the written. So we consider these two sections, the anatomy and histology, actually histopathology practical, and the summative to be like one big summative exam. So the final exam in this course is 78% of your grade. All right. So a fairly high stakes exam. Fairly late in the course, and we'll talk about how to handle that in a minute. Again, the performance rubric is exactly the same as host defense, and I won't go through that with you in any great detail. You can read that yourself if you did not get it then, but I'm pretty sure you did. All right. The final exam is in January. It's a high stakes exam. It's 78% of your grade. And it is going to be a particular challenge that you are not going to run into in any of the other blocks in this curriculum, because you're going to be expected to remember things that you learned in early November in late January. We kind of helped you out a little bit. You're going to have some study time before that exam in January. As it exists right now, you have a week to study for that exam, which you will not get in any other block. So we're helping you out with it a little bit because it's just so much time, and frankly, it's so much material in that period of time. I do have some strong suggestions for you. You are going to want to store things in long-term memory in this block. All right. You probably have had courses before, certainly your undergraduate courses where you could cram and pass the exam. Okay. You may have found that you could do it for host defense in this curriculum. I'm not sure, but I can practically guarantee you're not going to be able to do it in this course. It's too much material and it's too long a period of time. My strong suggestion is that you keep up with the material and that you not fall behind. If you do, there is so much material you are going to be unable to catch up. All right. Not only that, but this block poses a special challenge because more than maybe any other block in the curriculum, almost certainly more than host defense, the material builds one session upon another. I can tell you that the physiology does this. If you don't understand something that was taught in session 1, or the self-study material for session 1, you are highly unlikely to understand the material for session 2 or session 3 or session 4. It all builds one thing upon another, and so falling behind would be a very bad thing in this block. I strongly suggest that you not do it. I strongly suggest that you not counting on having time to catch up. Even with the blank spots in the curriculum, I think it unlikely that you're going to be able to do it. All right, I'm just telling you now. There is a lot of foundational material in this block. We have loaded a lot of that material up front in the cardiovascular section and then in the renal section, which comes a little bit later in December. All right, that means that a lot of the material is front loaded, so that means that the beginning of the course is going to be particularly intense. Sorry about that. It is. All right. One thing I want to make sure that you understand, there's a tendency to walk into the session and you do your session questions and then you get to the end of it and not all of the material in the self-study was addressed in the session. All right. Part of the problem, part of what I want you to understand, I don't want you to walk out and go, boy, I wasted my time studying all that material when all I had to learn was a few things. Not true. Incorrect. Wrong. Okay. Thank you for playing our game. We have some lovely parting gifts. That is not the way it works. Because a lot of the material is foundational, you need it for things that you're going to learn later that are going to be applicable in the sessions. And not only that, but we bring a lot of the material that you learned for session number 1 into session 2 or session 3. Okay, and we'll expect you to remember it. We'll expect you to be able to apply it to the current case where maybe we felt like it was a little bit more appropriate, but maybe we had to present it early on because it's foundational material that you needed to have more up front. Okay, so the timing of the presentation will not always match where it comes up with the case, and it will not always be apparent that it's applicable to the case because it's foundational material. Believe me, you need it. We're trying to not only teach you the material for the case, we're trying to teach you the material that you need to be good clinicians that will apply to all cases, not just the ones that we're presenting. And in particular, we're trying to teach you material that will help you pass step 1. And sometimes that means teaching you material that doesn't quite fit nicely into the subset of cases that we're presenting. It's still medically relevant. It fits cases somewhere. It just may not fit the cases that have been chosen. Okay? So just because material isn't addressed in the session that's associated with a self-study, don't walk away thinking you wasted your time. You didn't. I assure you, you didn't. We've been cutting material. I've been here 15 years. We've cut things every year, trying to make it slimmer and trying to make it more and more applicable to what you need, and just concentrate on that. And I feel like we've done a pretty good job of that here. If you're learning it, you need to know it. All right? We are working hard to make these sessions as applicable as possible. I think we're probably making progress. The material in this block is particularly easy to make relevant. It's heavy physiology, pathophysiology, anatomy. These are disciplines that are easy to apply to cases, and I think that's going to become apparent. All right. One thing I want you to be aware in the sessions, I in particular, and I confess it, I have a habit of asking questions that are open-ended. I have a habit of asking questions which are sometimes kind of hard in the sessions, because I'm trying to get you to apply the material. We will all do it because I'm a course director and I'm going to encourage people to do it. But I have a particular habit of doing that. That's really, really good, because it causes you guys to have to go through the material, to have to talk science and try to talk your way through the problems, try to solve them in groups. All right? That's what we really want you to do. We want you to talk about the material. And we want you to try to use it. And it isn't really, believe it or not, it isn't that important that you come up with the answer, the answer to the question. Sometimes there won't be the answer to the question. Sometimes it won't be that black and white. But nevertheless, we ask these questions because we feel like we're really challenging you to apply the material in a very special way to the case. And so I don't want you to get frustrated. I don't want you to come up to me and go, oh, those questions were way too hard. What do you think you're doing? They're not test questions, all right? They're supposed to be discussion questions for you guys to talk over amongst yourselves to help you learn and apply the material, okay? So first of all, don't be particularly disturbed. If you run across questions that you can't answer, don't panic. Don't think you're falling behind. Don't think that you're failing to live up to expectations. The odds are good that for at least some of these questions, we didn't expect you to come up with the answers. We just expect you to give it a really good shot and maybe come up with some really good, solid suggestions that are based or founded in the material that we tried to teach you. Okay? And if you're doing that, then you're doing what we want. All right? So that's it. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm sorry if this ran a little bit long. Sometimes I have a habit of babbling. Please contact me if you have any questions. I would really, really encourage you to contact me if you have any problems at all in this block, and I'll try to help you. Thanks.